Words have consequences. And the events of the past week have culminated in a terror attack on the Druze village of Majdal Shams in the Golan Heights from Lebanon that has resulted in the murder of 12 children between the ages of 10 and 20. I'm going to explain to you how not understanding foreign affairs and not understanding the mentality of the Middle East has led us to this point. And this point is an escalation with Iran's terror proxies in the war against Israel. Last week, President Joe Biden dropped out of the 2024 presidential race, practically gifting the Democratic nomination to Kamala Harris. Now, she doesn't have the nomination yet. She still has to get that nomination at the Democratic National Convention, but she's probably going to be the nominee. And world leaders know it. They're also, I believe, they're looking at her as kind of like an interim leader to see how she acts when faced with the pressures of the presidency. And I think they're testing her right now. Meanwhile, 3 days ago, Benjamin Netanyahu, Prime Minister of Israel, gave a speech to Congress, and this was a very crucial speech. Israel and America are allies. I don't care what you think about Netanyahu right now. He represents Israel, the only democratic country in the Middle East, just as Trump represented America from 2016 to 2020 when he was elected president. And he was the leader, whether you liked his politics or not. A lot of parallels between Trump and Netanyahu, but this isn't about their politics. This is about how they navigate world affairs. Netanyahu had to convey a message in Congress. But let me tell you something. He wasn't speaking to America, and he wasn't even speaking to Israel. He understood that in that important speech that he was giving, he was speaking to Iran. And if you listen to that speech, you'll notice that the overarching message was Israel and America are inseparable allies with shared values. Now, in democracies, those shared values are that they are against terrorism. And that's not something that we tolerate in civilized societies. It was absolutely crucial to show that America and Israel have a united front. This is what deters them from starting shit. Have you ever as a kid tried to get something from your parents, but when they show a united front, they shut you down and you realize it's not happening? But the second you get a sense that one of them is a little wishy-washy, or maybe they're a little more sympathetic to your cause, you might get in there and try to get a wedge between them so that you can get what you want. Now, I don't care what you think of Netanyahu right now. I mean, I do care, but like, as far as this moment is concerned, his job was to show a united front. And as far as I'm concerned, he completed his part of the bargain. Unfortunately, that sentiment was not reciprocated by the Biden administration. Neither he or the vice president even showed up for that congressional speech. Harris was at a fundraising event in Indiana. She was not in DC when mobs took over and vandalized and graffitied statues and wrote messages such as Hamas is coming, free Gaza, all Zionists are bastards, and long live resistance. What kind of a message does that send to Iran? Now, she did meet with Netanyahu afterwards, but I believe that her head was not where it should have been. She was in campaign mode, not world leader mode, when she tried to play both sides in their post-meeting remarks. When Harris said, Israel has a right to defend itself, but how it does so matters, and then vowed that she would not be silent about the tragedies in Gaza, she was not speaking to the world. She certainly was not speaking to Iran. She was speaking to Michigan. She was trying to appeal to voters, and Iran heard her loud and clear. Yes, she is putting out words that show her that she is pro-Israel, but she's also talking about restraining Israel and sympathizing with the Palestinians. Of course we want to sympathize with Palestinians, but you have to put out a strong message that says that kidnapping people is not okay, that attacking a sovereign country is not okay, and that you won't stand for it. Now, Harris represents the portion of the Democratic Party which is to the left of Biden. This group is much more critical of Israel, and I'm not saying that you cannot criticize Israel. What I am saying is that you do have to, in this particular moment, send a message of unity and power to the terror proxies of Iran. Because terror organizations are listening and they want to know how far they can take this thing. This was Harris's chance to say, democracies are not perfect, but we stand with Israel because of our shared values. And because she didn't exactly have that unmistakable stance, Iran heard her. What they heard was that this bond between America and Israel is not unbreakable. And so one of the terrorist groups, maybe Hezbollah, maybe a different group, the IDF is still investigating, they're still looking at the rocket. One of these terrorist groups sent rockets to a soccer field in Majdal Shams and killed these soccer players on the field. Majdal Shams is a well-known Druze village in the Golan Heights. The Druze are Israelis that have a strong connection with the Jews. There is a very close relationship. People are horrified to see what has happened to these children, these 12 Druze kids that were killed playing soccer. Meanwhile, Iranian leaders have said in the past that they're very encouraged by the protests that they're seeing in the West. And this public support gives them fuel to continue the war. If people say that they're protesting in the streets because they don't like war and they want a ceasefire and they're sympathetic to the Palestinian cause, and that Israel is not doing the right thing in the way that they're choosing to retaliate, this will make the war go longer. Because terrorists don't understand diplomacy. They understand it not in the way that you understand it. They understand it in a way that this is the open door to take advantage of the situation. So if they see that there's no outrage over what happened on October 7th, or the fact that Lebanon on October 8th has been sending rockets to Israel every single day, or that there are still 115 kidnappees being held captive against their will in Gaza, including 8 Americans, and there's no outrage, they're going to continue the war. They're going to think, you know what, maybe we can ask for more terrorists to be released out of Israeli jails. If people don't care, let's get a higher price. Let's continue the war. Let's keep going. If there's no outrage in the world, and if they see that Israel and America are not exactly on the same page, they're going to use that discrepancy to their advantage, which is exactly what they did. Terrorists in Lebanon heard Harris loud and clear, and that gave them the green light. They felt comfortable to escalate the situation. And now 12 Druze children who should have gone home after a soccer match are dead. And now Lebanon wants to know how sympathetic America will continue to be to these terror proxies. There are 80,000 people that have been displaced from their homes in northern Israel, and we don't really hear about it. Those kids in the north have to be absorbed elsewhere in the country. The government of Israel has announced that school will not resume in the north because the kids are being displaced. And Lebanon wants to see if America actually has Israel's back now. Is America going to allow them to defend themselves? It takes a skilled and knowledgeable leader to step on the world stage and to de-escalate the situation. And in sensitive situations, it just takes a few words to make things worse. Iran is connected to terrorism. Terrorists don't respond to diplomacy. Terrorists take advantage of diplomacy. What terrorists understand is strength and power. Musab Hassan Youssef, who is one of the sons of the founding leaders of Hamas, who turned away from that lifestyle of terrorism, has explained to the world that what Hamas understands is annihilate or be annihilated. There's no in-between with terrorists. And terrorists are not going to change their mind about what they think about the West. They hate the West, they hate freedom and Western values, and in order to get to America, Israel stands in their way. The way for terrorists to conquer both Israel and then America, which they have said that they want to do, is to come in between this alliance. Their plan is to cause a rift. Right now, it sure doesn't seem like America and Israel are on the exact same page, and 12 Druze children have now paid the price because they're dead, because Lebanon sent rockets into Israel because they felt comfortable to do so. I believe all Western civilized people want to see an end to this war, but I don't see how we're going to get to a ceasefire from where we are right now. And by the way, please put some pressure on the terror proxies to cease fire. Somebody say something about the fact that Lebanon needs to cease fire, not just Israel. And by the way, I don't want to hear anything about Israel being a so-called apartheid state when you can see that there are Druze villages. It's not just Jewish people who live in Israel. And I hope that the Druze population in Lebanon is outraged that these 12 Druze kids were killed. My heart is with the village of Majdal Shams. By the way, there's also one more thing that I want to add. I guess I'm not surprised, but I've seen this in a lot of media outlets, calling the Golan Heights territory occupied by Israel. The Golan Heights was annexed by Israel. It is Israel. So when you say the Golan Heights, that's a portion of Israel. I don't know how things get better from here, but I do hope that somehow this situation cools down and maybe the Biden-Harris administration gets some advisors that explain to them the nuance of words and how every single word matters. All right, you've made it to the end of this video, so you must like my rants. I've seen in the analytics that most of the people that are watching my videos are not subscribers. So I want to ask you, why not? Help me to get this video out to more people by subscribing, and I thank you very much. Bye.